The rain had already soaked the streets of Seattle when Emma Carter stepped outside her apartment building. The night felt heavy, like it was pressing down on her shoulders. She stood still for a moment, listening to the distant sound of traffic and the soft drizzle around her. Inside her apartment were quiet rooms filled with memories she didn't know what to do with anymore. Tonight, she didn't want answers. She just wanted to get away from those walls. Without thinking too much, she opened a ride app on her phone and booked a car. The destination was set to home by habit, even though she was already standing outside. Her thumb hovered over the screen, but she didn't change it. The car was already on the way. Emma was 36, old enough to understand disappointment and young enough to still hope things could change. Her life looked fine from the outside. A steady job in marketing, friends who checked in, weekends that stayed busy enough. But something had quietly slipped away over the years. Her long relationship had ended a few months earlier. Not with shouting or blame, but with tired conversations and the sad truth that love had turned into routine. Since then, nights had become the hardest. Headlights appeared through the rain. A dark sedan pulled over smoothly. Emma hesitated, then opened the door and slid into the back seat. The car was warm, the air calm, a small comfort she didn't know she needed. "Good evening," the driver said. His voice was steady, kind. "Emma, right?" "Yes," she replied, adjusting her jacket. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Let me know if the temperature's okay." She nodded, surprised by how normal and grounding the moment felt. The car pulled away from the curb and the city began to move around them. For a while, they drove in silence. Streetlights passed like slow thoughts. Emma watched reflections dance across the window and felt her breathing settle. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt respectful, like the night understood she didn't want to talk yet. At a stoplight, Daniel glanced at the rearview mirror, careful not to stare. "Long day?" he asked gently. Emma gave a small laugh. "Long few months." He nodded, not pushing further. "Those are the hardest." Something about the way he said it made her feel seen, even though he knew nothing about her. The light turned green, and they kept going. Daniel drove smoothly, unhurried. Emma noticed small details, the soft music playing low, the clean dashboard, the way he stayed focused on the road. She checked the app without meaning to and saw his rating. Nearly perfect. It made her smile for reasons she couldn't explain. They crossed a bridge, water dark and quiet beneath them. Emma felt the urge to speak before the moment passed. "Do you like driving at night?" she asked. Daniel thought for a second. "Yeah, nights are honest. People don't pretend as much." That stayed with her. She looked at her hands in her lap and then back out at the city. Maybe that was why she didn't feel like hiding right now? She told him she worked in marketing, that her job involved making things sound better than they sometimes were. She admitted she was tired of pretending her own life felt fine. Her words came easily, surprising her. Daniel listened without interrupting, without offering advice she didn't ask for. "I think I stayed too long in something that stopped growing," she said quietly. "That happens," he replied. "Sometimes we hope things will wake up again." She nodded. That was exactly it. Daniel shared a little of his own story, just enough to feel fair. He had moved to Seattle from Vancouver years ago after a marriage ended. No big fight, no betrayal. Just two people realizing they were no longer walking in the same direction. He talked about learning to be alone again, about how driving helped him clear his head. "I didn't plan to stay a driver this long," he said. "But life doesn't always follow plans." Emma smiled. "That seems to be a theme tonight." The car slowed as they reached her street. The app buzzed softly, signaling the end of the ride. Emma's heart sank in a way she hadn't expected. She wasn't ready to step back into her apartment, back into the quiet she had been running from. Daniel parked and waited, respectful, hands still on the wheel. Emma looked at the building ahead. The lights were off in her unit. The night inside felt colder than the rain outside. "Daniel," she said, her voice uncertain but honest. "You said people can change the destination." "Yes," he replied. "Any time." She swallowed. This wasn't about him. She knew that. It was about giving herself one more hour before facing everything again. "Would it be okay if we kept driving?" she asked. "Just for a bit." He paused, thinking carefully. "That's fine," he said. "Where would you like to go?" Emma looked ahead, then back at the road behind them. "I don't know," she admitted. "Somewhere that's not here." Daniel nodded slowly. "All right." He pulled away from the curb, and Emma felt something loosen in her chest. The city opened up again, full of streets she hadn't planned to see tonight. As they drove, Emma realized she wasn't escaping her life as much as giving herself space to breathe. She didn't know where the night would lead or how long this borrowed moment would last. She only knew that for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel completely alone. The rain softened, the road stretched on, and the ride that was never supposed to matter quietly became something else. The car moved quietly through the city, headlights cutting through the damp night. Emma sat back, letting the soft hum of the engine fill the space between them. She didn't know where she was going anymore, but for the first time, it didn't feel important. She glanced at Daniel in the front seat, noticing the calm way he drove, his hands steady on the wheel. His eyes alert, but not tense. There was a kind of confidence in him, not arrogance, just the ease of someone who had seen enough nights to understand the quiet moments matter most. "Do you do this often?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. "Drive," Daniel replied with a small smile. "Almost every night. Nights are easier. People are quieter, more honest, more willing to just be." Emma thought about that. It was true. People at night didn't have the pressure to impress or pretend. She found herself relaxing, letting the tension in her shoulders ease just a little. She shifted in the seat and leaned back, watching reflections of streetlights on the wet asphalt. "Honest people are rare," she said softly, more to herself than him. Daniel glanced at her through the mirror, his eyes kind. I don't know if they're rare," he said. "Maybe people just don't give themselves the chance to be honest." She thought about her life, about all the quiet compromises she had made, about her ex, about the apartment filled with reminders, and about the nights she spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had lost herself somewhere along the way. Talking to Daniel felt easy, like words weren't being measured or judged. She asked him about his move to Seattle, curious to fill the quiet space. Daniel told her about Vancouver, about the job that brought him here, and about the marriage that ended without fireworks but left its mark. "It wasn't dramatic," he said, "but it changed me in ways I didn't expect. You learn a lot when a life you imagined quietly disappears." Emma nodded, understanding completely. Her own life had changed quietly too, she had thought. She would be with her partner forever, and then slowly realized she wasn't. There were no loud arguments, just long silences that said everything. Now she was learning to breathe again, slowly, carefully, like a person testing her own lungs after being underwater too long. They passed a bridge spanning a dark river, the water reflecting the city lights and ripples. Daniel spoke about why he liked to drive at night, about the honesty, about people showing parts of themselves they kept hidden in daylight. Emma realized she felt the same way tonight. The darkness outside made it easier to show pieces of herself she had been keeping in check. "I've spent too long pretending things are okay," she said quietly, "even when they weren't." "Pretending is easier," Daniel replied. "It's safer, but it doesn't last." Emma looked out the window, feeling a lump in her throat. She wanted to tell him more, but wasn't sure if she could. Then again, maybe she didn't have to. The act of being here, in the car, moving through the night with someone who wasn't judging her, was enough. "You've been through a lot," she said after a pause. "I can tell." T shrugged lightly. "Everyone has their nights," he said. "Some just talk about them, some just drive through them." Emma smiled faintly. There was something comforting about that simplicity. No advice, no solutions, just acknowledgement. She liked that. She hadn't realized how much she needed it until now. They drove past a quiet park, trees dark against the glow of streetlights. The car slowed near the waterfront and Daniel glanced at her. "We could stop here for a moment if you like," he offered. Emma hesitated. The night was already bending, differently than she had imagined. She nodded. "I like that." He parked near the water. The reflection of the city shimmered on the river, soft and peaceful. Emma stepped out, the cold damp seeping through her coat, and Daniel followed. The air smelled faintly of rain and the distant ocean. She felt herself exhale, a deep breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. "I didn't plan for tonight to be like this," she admitted, looking at the lights dancing on the water. "Neither did I," Daniel said. "But sometimes the unplanned nights are the ones we remember." Emma nodded. She thought about the apartment she hadn't wanted to go back to, the empty rooms, the silence waiting for her, and she realized she didn't want to return just yet, not tonight. Not until she had more of this, the quiet connection, the simple conversation, the feeling that someone understood even without knowing everything. Daniel said nothing but started the car again, and she got in without hesitation. The app buzzed, showing home as the destination, but Emma didn't care. "Can we just drive?" she asked. He glanced at her through the rearview mirror, reading her eyes. "Sure, anywhere you want." Emma didn't have an answer. She only knew where she didn't want to go. She wanted to feel this moment stretch, to see where it could lead without planning, without expectation. As they drove through empty streets and quiet neighborhoods, Emma felt a strange kind of freedom. She wasn't running from her life anymore. She was moving through it, testing it, touching the edges of what could be, letting herself breathe without the weight of judgment or routine. Daniel talked quietly about the music he loved, the places he had wanted to see, the nights that had felt both long and short. Emma listened, feeling herself being drawn into a rhythm she hadn't realized she had missed. Human connection that didn't demand performance, that didn't insist on immediate results. Hours passed, or maybe minutes' time had become soft, elastic, irrelevant. Emma's phone buzzed, notifications ignored. She didn't care. She had traded schedules and obligations for the night itself, for the car, for this quiet companionship. At one stoplight, Daniel glanced at her. "You okay?" he asked. Emma smiled faintly. A real one, not the polite version she gave to coworkers or family. "I've never felt more okay in a long time," she said. Daniel nodded, understanding. No need for further words. The car moved again, taking them through streets lined with wet asphalt, reflecting neon signs and lamplight. Emma felt her chest expand as if she could finally inhale the night itself. When the app finally buzzed again, signaling the supposed end of the ride, Emma didn't move. She realized she didn't want the night to end yet. Not like this. The thought of returning to her apartment felt heavier than it had earlier, colder than the rain outside. "Can we keep going?" she asked, softly, almost shyly. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Course," he said. "Where do you want to go?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Somewhere new, somewhere not home." He smiled faintly, acknowledging without judgment. And so, the car moved forward again, carrying them both into the unknown, letting the night stretch into a space where stories could begin, hearts could open, and life could feel just a little less heavy. The night had shifted. What started as a simple ride to escape had become something else entirely, a passage into honesty, connection, and the quiet beginnings of possibility. And Emma knew, without fully understanding how, that this night would stay with her long after the city lights faded behind them.